Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Driver, and welcome to another episode of the Drive program. Before we get started, I just want to quickly mention that we now have a table of contents listed in the episode description. That'll have a timestamp and the name of a section, so you can skip forward and listen to maybe just the sections that you're interested in. So that's a small update. And then I also just want to say I've been pretty happy with the quality of the podcast, the theme song, the cover art, the quality of the editing and the conversations. So I really just want to encourage you guys to share an episode that you guys really relate to. I think I have a system down. Like I said, I got some awesome episodes on the way. And now one of the last things that I need to do is just spread the word and make sure everyone knows about it. So if you guys have any guests that you think that I would have a fun time talking to, I'm doing a lot of remote episodes these days, so I could talk to just basically anyone. And if you have any friends that you think would be interested in listening to the podcast, please do me a favor and just let them know. It really goes a long way to get a personal recommendation on something. So I really appreciate you guys for just being listeners, and I would love it if you could help me spread the word and help me grow my audience. My guest today is Liam Magerr, and he is a traveling nurse. So I actually met Liam at Frank's bachelor party and wedding, and me and him instantly hit it off. He's really, really active, and he is a traveling nurse, so he lives in different areas about every 3 months and provides nursing services there. So we talk about that for a while. We talk about just being a nurse, being a travel nurse, some of the cool places that he has gotten to go to. And then Liam also really likes to live in an area where he can snowboard or he can surf. So we talked about those two activities, and we just talked a lot about life in general. And then near the end, Liam's actually run 3 different marathons, and he had run a marathon actually a couple weeks before this conversation. So we did a deep dive. I've never actually interviewed someone who's run a marathon, and I was very excited to finally get to talk to someone about that. So we talked about that for a long time. And yeah, man, it was a great conversation. Liam's also he was pretty funny at times too, man. This guy, he's hilarious. Yeah, I hope you guys really enjoy the episode, and here's a quick word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Mama Bama and the Mod Canna. They sell CBD products online and are offering a 15% discount to listeners of the podcast. CBD can help relieve anxiety, reduce pain and inflammation, improve sleep, and have many other positive health benefits. Personally, I take CBD gummies every day to manage my stress levels and to help me fall asleep. Go to themodcanna.com to shop for CBD-infused products like gummies, lotions, tinctures, and smokables. Please use code DRIVE, D-R-I-V-E, at checkout to support the podcast and receive a 15% discount. I'm going to provide some educational resources about CBD in the show notes, but if you are unsure if you should be consuming CBD, please consult with your doctor. Thanks, everyone. This is episode 27 of the Drive program, with guest Liam Magerr. Is that tea almost ready?
Yeah, it's about to start steaming. It's about to start screaming and steaming.
That's pretty hype.
Yeah.
Where were you living before this? It was Maine, right?
Yeah, so before this, I was living in southern Maine. A lot of people from like the East Coast and stuff, and a lot of different areas, they don't really understand how Maine works. But since I was in southern Maine, I was pretty close to New Hampshire and Vermont and stuff. And I was just working and doing a lot of surfing over there.
Nice. How was that area compared to like some of the other places you've lived?
So that area was pretty awesome because it wasn't terribly far from the coast. Maine has that whole coastline that's pretty big. when I like break down different areas, usually geographically is very important for me because I do a lot of snowboarding and a lot of surfing. So this time around, I was doing plenty of surfing because I was on the coast. So it was just it was very nice for that. But like the area in general, which is really pretty. It's just like very visually appealing. And then when you kind of break down the population and stuff, there's a lot less people there. It's kind of like sparsely populated. People are pretty friendly. As far as like politics go, it's kind of like in the middle, like not really too liberal, not too conservative. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not bad. I liked it a lot.
Nice, man. And then where is the area you're in now?
So the area I'm in Burlington, Vermont. That's in central Vermont. So it's like kind of right smack dab in the middle of the state, which is perfect for me because there's mountains up north and then there's mountains down south. And then I can also go east back towards like Maine or New Hampshire or stuff. So it's a really good location for that.
How
And
far away is that from Delaware?
from Delaware, I think it's around 7 hours or so.
Okay, so it's still pretty decent drive.
Yeah, it's like a decent drive, but it's not like, I'm on the West Coast or like the Midwest or something, or, even when I was living in South Carolina for a little while, that was like 12 hours, so
Hmm.
seven's like a walk in the park.
Are you about to go home for the holidays and shit?
I think, nah, I was just home for Thanksgiving. I did a race in Philadelphia. I think that's going to be pretty much my holiday I go home for. I teach snowboarding on the side.
Uh-huh.
So for Christmas and stuff, I'm off from my job at the hospital, but it's a super busy holiday for like teaching, skiing, and snowboarding. So they probably have me on the schedule to like teach that day.
That's dope. You really maximized getting two jobs right away when you showed up there, you know?
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
was wondering about Christmas because I was about to say you seem like you're still getting adjusted there. That's very soon to go home, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I travel a lot for my job already. And then also with my free time, I'm always driving and flying and going all over the place. So sometimes when I get to a new area or like I had been doing a lot of traveling, I'm just happy to just stay put, and
Hmm.
like people want to visit me. Sure, that's great. But maybe I'll just see y'all in a few months after I get more like acquainted to the area.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Now that I live in Florida away from family, all my vacations are surrounded by going home. You know, it's a little bit annoying. I mean, obviously, I can go to the beach on like a random weekend. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like I jump into vacation mode like more often, but
Yeah.
2 times a year I would go to the beach. And now that I'm at the beach, 2 times a year, it's just like I go home. It's not as exciting, you know?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
when you're moving to cool places, you can't always take the holidays, or like the vacations somewhere cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I get that and I understand that a lot because I'm like rarely home ever. Or like in and around the areas that a lot of my friends from high school and college that I've met, they're always like, "Hey, come to like New Jersey or something." And I'm just like, not to say Jersey sucks, but I'm just like, "Hey, dude, like come see me. I'm in like this place, I'm in the mountains or like I'm at a beach." And then when you
Yeah.
do come home, you only have a certain amount of time. You
Hmm.
want to see everyone, you want to do everything, but I'll only be home for like maybe a week, like at most. And you just can't really do and see everything you want to do. Kind of gets like crammed in there and then you get like kind of stretched too thin and stuff like that.
Okay, so you do all this traveling to different areas. Well, not just traveling, but you live in different areas because you are a travel nurse, right?
Yeah, that is
And
correct.
so why did you decide to be a nurse in the first place? I've been curious.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I decided to be a nurse in the first place. I was pretty young, and a buddy of mine, his parents were getting like divorced, and he was at like an age where that was pretty upsetting for him. And I remember him being like really kind of bummed out at school about it, and that really affected me, and that made me upset. And I remember coming home and telling my mom about it, and she like consoled me and whatever. And to kind of help me direct my efforts and thoughts, she's like, well, maybe you would want to be someone who talks to people and helps people. And I was like, yeah, that is what I want to do. So that was at a really young age. And I kind of always knew I wanted to do something to help people. Maybe speaking to them would be helpful. And then fast forward, I was in high school and I was trying to figure out, or it was my senior year, and we had like a research paper we had to do. We had a list of topics to pick from. You could either do one of those topics or you could pick a profession that you could be potentially interested in and interview someone who has that job and works in that profession. So I picked nursing, and my sister-in-law is a nurse. So I just interviewed her, asked her a bunch of questions, and then I did a ton of research. Like for high school, like I think it was like a 10-page paper. When I got done doing all that, I was like, this is really pretty interesting. And then I was picking my major, and my brother's like, you should just do nursing. They always need nurses, male nurses. They love them. And I was like, okay, I will. So I did. And it all fell into place. And I lucked out a lot because I like the classes and everything, but you really don't know what it's going to be like until you're in the clinical setting, like in the hospital, helping people and working under nurses. And when I was doing that and had plenty of patient contact, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. So it kind of just fell into place, and I'm lucky it was like a straight line because in this day and age, people like change their majors a ton, and it's really hard to know like what you want to do. But yeah, I've been doing it for a few years now.
That's awesome, man. It's good to hear that you find this career so rewarding, right? Because it's something that we really need people to do. And especially like over the past 2 years with COVID, right? It's been an increasingly more stressful career that you've entered into, I'm sure. So I'm glad
Yeah.
that you still find fulfillment with it, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love what I do. I feel fortunate every day that my job exists and they pay me to do it. And definitely there's a lot of strain with COVID. When people talk about COVID, I say COVID had a plan for everyone, and my COVID plan was moving up to the mountains, from the beach to the mountains. But that was definitely a pretty difficult time period, especially when it first came out, and I was working on a medical unit, and the only patients we were accepting at the time were COVID patients, like 100%. It was just like a lot, and a
Hmm.
lot was happening in the world outside of the hospital, and that was definitely like pretty stressful for a while.
Yeah, we also didn't know like exactly how bad it was going to get and stuff, right? Like while it was still ramping up, that must have been scary.
Oh yeah, and I saw like in the hospital in the beginning, we didn't really know how to treat it that well, and people would decompensate, their health would decrease pretty rapidly, and it would go from someone who didn't need any oxygen to breathe at all to needing like a high flow oxygen at like a pretty high level, and then they would have to go to the ICU and stuff like that, like the intensive care unit. And then throughout some time when I was working on the unit, the doctors and everyone started to learn how to like treat it a little better. But early on, it was just chaos. People were just like, and it's kind of morbid, but like people are just like dying pretty often. People gonna like your patients, like half of them would go to the ICU. Like maybe one of them would pass away your shift. Like it was just like a lot for a while.
Hmm. You didn't have a vaccine at first, right? So at that point, you're treating people, you're still at risk of catching it yourself, right?
Oh
I guess.
yeah, yeah. Now it's like, do you got your vax? Like, do you have like proof of it? Do you have your booster? Whatever. Right then and there, it wasn't even like no one had even like talked about it at all. So yeah, you were just like going into patients' rooms with N95 masks and like face shield, full gown and gloves, and you would have to like gown up every time you go into the room, and then strip down all your stuff when you get out. And I really just did. I mean, no one wants COVID, but I really didn't want it. And I was hand sanitizing from my hands all the way up to like my shoulders, and like between masks, I'd have a surgical mask. I would like hold my breath until I got an N95 on. It might be a bit extreme, but like every single patient on my unit, 25 patients, they just like all had it. Every single person is like confirmed having it. So yeah, that was kind of stressful. And then that's like one thing, but and then the job was hard, but what was really tough is like, man, your job's so stressful, and you want to get some sort of release, you want to see people, you want to do things. But hey, guess what? Now you're like essentially viewed as a COVID patient because you can't see and do things. Like I wanted to see a buddy a few states over, and his wife was like, "Hey, you working with COVID patients directly?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, well, we don't really want you to come." And I was like, "Man, I'm out here like working hard, like trying to get people better." And then, I mean, I can't even really do much myself because I could potentially have it and not even know or something like that. And I don't want to spread it to people. So that's what made
Damn.
it tough outside of work. It's still lingering. You can't really leave work at work kind of thing.
Damn, that's rough. I wish we knew each other. We did a podcast back then so that you could have connected with someone at least virtually, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I think that'll be probably pretty beneficial. They during the peak of it, they had like kind of like support things and groups and stuff. You see things at work, you don't really utilize them to the fullest, but I'm sure people did, and it benefited them a little bit.
Yeah. And I guess that's because we didn't have COVID tests either, right? The rapid testing. So that's why you couldn't go see other people and stuff. It just, you could maybe have it or maybe not at any point.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the rapid testing was far and few. In the beginning, people were questioning everything to like a pretty bizarre standpoint, but every single thing, like life itself, they're just questioning everything. But one of the things they questioned was the accuracy of these COVID tests. Some people would be like,
Mm.
"Oh, can I come and I'll get a COVID test? And as long as it's negative, you think I can come like see you or do something?" They'd be like, "Ah, nah." And then you just gotta like roll with the punches. You just gotta be like, "All right, I respect how you feel about it. I'm not gonna push this thing onto you, like whatever."
My girlfriend was talking to you at the wedding, right? And she said that
Yeah.
you were explaining to her that you went for like a nursing career over like a career as a doctor because you got to be more like hands-on with the patients, or you just got to be more like impactful in their lives or something. Can you kind of speak on like your decision to become a nurse and your experience compared to maybe some of the other careers you could have taken in the medical field?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people that want to become doctors, they've wanted to be doctors for like their whole life, or they have a family that they come from a family of doctors and it's almost predetermined for them. So for me, it was never really like an idea or thought of if I wanted to become a doctor or do something like that, because doctors a lot of times are viewed as the people that they kind of come in and they solve a few problems and then they're out. But the kind of like more like the dirty work, more of the hands-on, and the people have like the most patient care is the nurses. You're talking to them the whole day. You're giving them like care. You're hanging bags of fluid. You're giving them blood. You're doing like all these different things, and then you're kind of the middleman between the patient and the doctor. But you have these moments with the patients that you can go above and beyond and really just talk to them, give them a little bit of extra time to chat, and it's more personable.
Mm.
Whereas sometimes doctors, they don't have all that much time. They're stretched pretty thin. They have a ton of patients, so they don't have time to like just be chatting with the patient. And sometimes it feels like they kind of just come in and they're there for 5 minutes and then they're out. The person you see least in your care is probably your doctor, and it's probably like them like having you sign some forms that are pretty important, and you might need a little extra time because when you're delivered some sort of news, whether it's like, hey, you're going to get surgery today on your foot because it's infected, or you have this diagnosis, when you get that news, your brain kind of can just turn off because it's overwhelming. And then the doctor sees them and then they're out. But then, like a little bit later, the patient's like, oh, wait, I had this question or I had that question, or like. And then for me as a nurse, I'm like, okay, well, let me know all the questions. I'll like just relay it to the doctor, just go from there. But yeah, I picked nursing because I just knew that there's so many different kinds. You can be a school nurse, you can work in like a lot of different places in the hospital, you can be a psychiatric nurse. And I just knew that if I got bored of one area of nursing, I could just go to a different one and learn about that. Another thing I was thinking about doing was an occupational therapist, because my mom was a physical, or still is a physical therapist, and OT's like similar-ish to PT, and that was like another thing I was kind of like thinking of, but I didn't really pursue it.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you were saying about doctors. It seems like, I guess, since they're making the decisions about a patient, they can't really get close to the patient at the same time because, I mean, it would be harder to make tough decisions for them. So I guess it's
Yeah.
kind of the nurse's job to actually get close with them and be their care and support, you know?
Mhm.
So you said you wanted to talk about being a traveling nurse. Did that play into your decision to be a nurse in general? Did it all kind of come together like, oh, if I become a nurse, I can travel? Or is this something that you've kind of discovered after falling in love with nursing?
It definitely was discovered after I fell in love with nursing, and I've been, or it was in school. I was in school, and you get to be your junior, senior year, and when you're doing your clinical rotations, every seasoned nurse that you're shadowing and stuff, when they make small talk with you, they ask you what kind of nurse do you want to be? And years ago, I guess it was, I don't know, I guess like 6 years ago, I had found out about travel nursing. It was pitched to me, hey, you move around, they give you money for your room and board. It's pretty good money, and you get to see and do a lot of things. And I was like, wow, I'd really only gotten my feet a little bit wet traveling at that point in time, but I had an interest in that. So every time a nurse asked me, hey, what do you want to do? And I would just be like, oh, I want to be like a traveling nurse. But then once I graduated, I realized you have to get at least a year or two experience working as a nurse before you can just like up and just move to different areas, because you can't be like a brand new nurse working on a unit that's like needs travelers, because then they're going to be like, oh, this person's kind of incompetent, and like this defeats the purpose of a traveling nurse.
Yeah, man. So how long have you actually been traveling then?
So it's been November, last November 23rd was a year. So it's been like a year and a month, 13 months or something.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
say you move around about every 3 months?
Yeah. So ideally, how it works is you have 13-week assignments. That's like the average assignment. And you can sometimes, if the hospital likes you and they still have a need for nurses and they're not able to fill that hole, they'd rather re-sign a traveling nurse that they know and they like, and they do a good job or whatever, than to have you leave and then get a new traveling nurse that they have to train. They only train them for like a day or two, but it's kind of rolling the dice. They don't know if it's going to be a good nurse or not. But if they like you and you like the hospital and you like the area, sometimes you can re-sign your contract. So when that comes into play, you can renegotiate your pay and stuff with your scheduling and stuff like that. Yeah, I've definitely re-signed my contract a few times. So it's just like helpful to kind of just re-sign sometimes. It's easier not to move every 3 months, but some people do it every 3 months they move.
Yeah, right. It seems pretty short-lived, you know. So I could see if you really fall in love with a hospital or an area being like, all right, let's do this for 6 months, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it might not be that many places, but what is your favorite location that you've lived at? Not like people or
Oh
hospital, but like just the area.
yeah, that's a good one. Oh, that's very good. I've been trying to figure that one out recently, actually.
Yeah.
I think my absolute it'll always be my number one until something comes out of nowhere. But I lived in Mammoth Lakes, California for 5.5 months, and this was right out of college. It was just so cool because a lot of my friends, like, move back in with their parents, save some money, doing their thing, or kind of have a job that's okay, or don't have a job, just figuring it out. That's what everyone was doing. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's just normal. But like for me, I was like, I want to go work at this mountain, like in California. So I just thought it was sick. And it was such a cool area, like snow-capped mountains, and they come down to like right next to beautiful lakes. And recently I follow them on social media. They recently got like a foot of snow like yesterday. And I'm just like, oh, I wish I was there. But it sounds cliche, but it was just magical. It's just a magical place. It's like the people, the place is like 1 square mile is the
Mm-hmm.
town, the smallest town, and then it's just like a badass mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just good.
Yeah, dude. I was thinking about what you were saying, how most people don't do that right out of college. From my experience, a lot of people have a really rough time 22, 23, 24, like those years right after college. They're not, they like, take some time to figure it out, right? Even me, like
Totally.
I always wanted to leave Virginia, but I didn't get to Florida until I was 26. Like it takes time to kind of like get on your feet and get a career down and then find out, usually find out where you want to live. That's crazy that you were just able to capitalize on the moment and do some adventure type shit right in your early 20s,
Yeah, I was so stoked about that, like in general, and like it was a lot of it was winging it. The money I was making then was like not really. It was just fueling my experience. I wasn't saving much money or anything, but I've always been that kind of person that I kind of just very spontaneous with what I want to do, where I want to go, and I'm just kind of like on my own agenda in a lot of ways, and that's like pretty exciting for me. But along my travels, not many people function that way, so it's kind of like a little different. Like when I meet people and they know I'm going to be moving in a few months, they might not be as inclined to want to get to know me, and see what I'm about, because they're going to be like, oh, he's going to be gone in a few months. Like there's really not many people that have this like nomadic lifestyle.
Mm. Yeah, it's rough, but I think it's becoming more and more possible. For me, it's really hard to move location, right? Because I have a girlfriend. I think a lot of people with a family or a girlfriend, it makes it harder to do that. But we both just got remote jobs. And I think we're both going to be able to stay like in a remote career. So if that happens, I think we're going to look into doing some sort of like temporary living situation here and there at least. I think we might have
Yeah.
a home base in Florida, but there is definitely like ways of basically like you could live in a different apartment. You could do like a rent like a service and live in a different city every month. And
Yeah.
when you're working fully remote, those kind of opportunities are like pretty possible. So I think you're ahead of the curve. I think a lot of people are going to start doing things like this, where they
Yeah.
experience a bunch of different areas, at least like here and there.
hmm Yeah, I think you're totally right. It is becoming more common, because with like the influx of the disease and everything, it's forced a lot of people to be remotely working, or like a lot of medical stuff. They would just like call in or do like a televisit, stuff like that. And then because they were forced to do some of those things they never really did before, and now that they've done it and they realized it works, and that they just like learned a lot. I think there's just a ton more like jobs that are continuing to work remotely, because they're like, oh, productivity is just as good, if not better. We don't need you to come to this place because you can do the work at home, and you probably always could.
Mhm.
But that's awesome. Yeah, you guys could rent a van and just like go all over.
I don't know about
I
renting
don't
a
know.
van.
Yeah, I mean that would be like it might, if you're in a van with your girlfriend, you might get kind of tired of each
Dude,
other.
I don't know if you've noticed, but like van life has become huge on TikTok. People are like, I live
Yeah.
in a van. There's a bunch of funny videos of people opening up their van to like a Walmart parking lot and being like, wow, look how beautiful my life is.
That's great. That's accurate too. Walmart parking lots, they let you park your van there. Like that's totally the
Yeah.
thing.
Some people make it look really glamorous. Some people have like the nice
Oh
RV and it's
yeah.
all decked out, but then I don't think everyone living in their car is got quite the glamorous lifestyle.
No. I think about it because I'm like a ski bum, like surf bum kind of dude, and I'm traveling around for travel nursing. So like financially, it would make sense. But then you're living in a van. I'm sorry. Like, hey, I meet some people in a new town. Hey, you want to come back to like my van? Like I don't know.
No.
Hey, come on over to
No,
my van, dude.
dude, I no offense, I could definitely see you living in a van. I could definitely
Oh yeah.
I could definitely
None
see it.
taken. I've gotten it before.
You said they covered your room and board, so it almost doesn't make sense for you. But if they didn't cover that, then it probably would make sense for you, right? I mean, you'd save a shit ton of
Yeah.
money.
So also how that component works is so they give you your base hourly rate and then your food, it's like your food and house stipend. That's like a fixed rate. So you don't have to like give them receipts of where you're living and they're
Ah,
like, oh, you spent well, they're just like, oh, it's probably like 2 grand a month to live in the area. So they're just like, yeah, find housing. Here's 2 grand, no matter. So if you
okay.
spend less, the less you spend on housing, the more you make, essentially. But double-edged sword, you don't want to live in like a little, hobbit hole or something like that, where like your kitchenette is next to your bed. I've done that. I have done that before.
So
I made the money.
so then you could live in a van and save that and pocket that money and you'd be all right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I
I
totally
mean,
could.
you probably would need to save up for this, but if you get a good enough RV, you'd be fine. My grandparents owned an
Yeah.
RV and they spent about 9 months a year after they retired, just like going across the country, living out of this RV. And they, two people, they loved it, you know? So
Yeah.
with one person, you'd be fine. And it wouldn't be that weird. People could come over. Like they had a pretty spacious amount of room, but
Yeah. I would like totally get an RV. That would
mhm,
be that would be sick.
that'd be radical.
I would really like that.
That'd be
But
such a
yeah.
funny scene, dude.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, no.
Okay, so part of the reason you love travel nursing though is because you pick like a snowboarding spot usually and a surf spot in the winters and the summers.
Yep.
So if gun to your head, you can only do one of the two for the rest of your life. Which one?
I'll just like grab the gun and just pull the trigger. I would, I would, for me, it's snowboarding. I like snowboarding more. That's my absolute number one. But the last 2, 3 years, I've progressed so much in surfing and have lived in beach towns that like surfing's getting more and more to be like that close second. Like it's right,
Mhm.
right next to it. But it'd be snowboarding. I love it. It's like the best sport.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about snowboarding first then. What have you been snowboarding since you were a kid?
Yeah, I started snowboarding like I was in Pennsylvania, and I think the place was called Bear Creek, and it's like some shitty Pennsylvania slope. And I was 7 years old. I was taking like a lesson, and I'm pretty keen on the progressive steps of how to start learning, like the step by step of how you learn how to snowboard. But at the time, I was just a little kid, and they had us with like one foot in, like skating around. You kind of like have your other foot and you like push like a skateboard and then put it on there. And I was so little and I was like, man, this is stupid. We don't even have 2 feet on the board. And this like instructor, I just thought he was like a jabroni. So like they had us learning how to do turns. And then I just like we're supposed to take a left and then cycle back. I just took a right and just kept going. And my instructor's like, well, I don't know where that kid's going. I just like left the class and then went on the hill and just ate shit all day long. Like just trying to learn on my own and a lot of trial and error up until my early 20s when I started teaching.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'd started at a pretty young age.
Yeah, dude, I was the same way. I just would fall over and over and over again. I didn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? So like I
Oh
could
yeah.
keep going all day. And then when I was 17, I actually broke my collarbone snowboarding. So
Wow.
up until that point, I was a maniac. Like I would just go straight down. Like I didn't care, you know? I wasn't great, but like I said, I didn't care if I like totally ate shit. So I had a really
Yeah.
fun time. And then I actually own my own snowboard. I don't, like I said, then I broke my collarbone and then it just changed the energy towards it. I was like, just more I go like joy rides now. Like I go down slow and I'm just like taking my time. I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't want to
dude.
break that again, you know? So
Absolutely. That's a big eye opener, man. Like get that first injury is like
mhm.
huge.
Yeah, I mean, if I broke my wrist or something, it would have just been a different story. But breaking my collarbone was kind of traumatic. That takes so long to heal. It's hard to sleep every night. It's just like one of those bones that's not fun. So, like, I'm sure if
Yeah.
I got hurt again, it wouldn't be the same one. But like, it just does something to your brain where you're just not as reckless after that moment, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
mean, yeah.
yeah. But what do you teach people when they're first starting off? What are the I know you go in like an S shape, right?
Yeah.
Like what are the other basics to snowboarding when you're teaching somebody?
Yeah, so the super basics would be like starting with 1 foot in, learning how to just glide on the snow. Because a lot of people I would teach when I was out west, a lot of these people were from Southern California, like Orange County, LA area, and they're just at the beach all the time. So they're not as familiar with snow. Maybe it was the first time they're seeing snow. They've never gone sledding. So in the beginning, it's kind of like getting the sensation down of sliding on snow. You kind of have them only have 1 foot in. So if it kind of gets out of control, they just take their 1 foot that's not locked in and kind of slow themselves down. But to kind of fast forward into like more tangible snowboarding stuff, it's you really just kind of teach them their heel edge and then their toe edge, and eventually you have them link those edges. You're on your heel edge and you're going across the mountain, and
Mm,
then you connect to a toe side turn. But
mm,
it's just breaking down those components. Like everyone, it's pretty common for people to learn heel edge first because they're looking down the hill. You kind of just put your toes up when you slide down. So then you kind of have them master that and then learn how to kind of traverse across the mountain or whatever. And then you incorporate toe edge, and then you just link those two together. And then once you link them, you can eventually get like S turns. But a lot of things that I teach is, it's really just focusing on what I'm saying to, I was about to say patients, to the students, it's the wrong job, to the students, and like have like make sure they pay attention to me and what I say. And it's a lot of it's just your body movement and trusting what I say will help you. Once fear gets involved, which a lot of people have it, teaching little kids. I started as a really pretty big youngster, which was great. But when you're older and you're learning for the first time, you're like, dude, I can't get hurt. I have work and kids and whatever. That fear component makes you kind of lock up and doesn't allow you to absorb the information the way you should be. So I oftentimes tell them, don't worry, if you listen to me, I'll keep you safe. Try to decrease that kind of like anxious feeling about like falling and hitting your ass or something. And like for your injury, like once you came back into it, you had more of the fear because you had that kind of traumatic injury that you're not as inclined to like just gun it down the mountain now, which is like,
mm.
it's kind of like instinctual. Your body and brain tells you that so you don't get hurt again. And then you have pros that just do whatever after like a really major injury.
Hmm. Yeah, fear is such a powerful emotion, that
Yeah.
it's really intense. And I feel like doing these things like surfing and snowboarding and hurting yourself, it increases the level of fear that not no, it increases let me say it this way. People that don't do what you do, right? They get
Yeah.
scared in their house that, that they're going to get mugged, or if they walk down the street, or that that their boss is going to be mad at them. They get fearful over small things, right? And then
Yeah.
if you
Sure.
go like race down the mountain and you're in real danger and you feel like real life fear, I feel like that should have an effect on like the other smaller parts of your life. You're not going to be
Yeah.
as fearful. I feel like
No, yeah, for sure. I think what I think what it does is it increases your threshold of fear and what
mm,
scares you. That's what
threshold.
threshold, baby. I knew you were trying to say it. I was like, gonna plug in. But
There you
it
go.
definitely does. I've been in like pretty tumultuous waters, waters that people drown in and shit. And I've been in like kind of scenarios where I thought I was going to drown for like a little bit. You kind of come out and you're like, wow, I'm alive. My life like flashed before my eyes. But then when I go back to my day to day basis and I don't really like public speaking. And for nursing, I have to give report to a whole group of people about all my patients and stuff. When I think about like going in the room and speaking in front of people and being scared or anxious or whatever, I'm not risking my life. It's
Mhm.
all in my head. I'll be fine. I'm not in the ocean like getting pounded by waves and like I might not see the light of day. It's only what's going on in your head. And it does make some of those things that might seem kind of scary for me just a little less because I see and do like a decent amount of like extreme things that increase that threshold.
Mhm. Yo, when it
Yeah.
comes to public speaking, apparently that's the thing that people fear most in the world. And the
Mhm.
second most thing is death. So that means that at a funeral, people would rather be the person in the coffin than the person giving the speech sometimes. Like, you know,
That's
uh,
crazy, man. And yeah, that's pretty wild. They say that, one thing that is consistent in this world is that it's always going to change. Nothing will ever be the same. There's death, there's life, there's and acceptance is such a powerful thing. Like if you accept death, if you like you want to come into it. I've been reading this book, but they say that you want to come to your death with either joy would be the best thing possible. You're
mhm,
just like, you're a joyous person down to your soul. You don't have that immediate satisfaction kind of joy. You just have that contentment. So you want to approach death like that. If you can't do that, at least acceptance. And if you can't do that, at least with no regret. And you'll have like a peaceful passing or whatever. But that's a pretty interesting take about the coffin and the person doing the eulogy.
yo, yeah, I was thinking about what you're saying about joy, and I feel like people
Oh
in
yeah.
old age, they either get like bitter or they get more joyous, right? It's like this increasing like your last 20, 30 years, and you can see people go down the bitter scale, the spiral, or they just get like more and more joyous every day, and it's like
Yeah.
weird. I feel like practicing like gratitude and things like that are little tricks to help you get to that more joyous mindset in the end.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you just got to know everything that is good, bad, and ugly that can go on with your world is just inside of your head. If
Hmm.
you change your perception of reality, you're going to change the world. The
Hmm.
the world that you see. Like if you change the way you look at it, in turn, you're going to change the world. That's
Hmm.
like unfolding. I think a lot of people, when they're older ages and stuff, they might have stuff throughout their life that they didn't process. And then guess what? They don't really have maybe the means to process those things, or maybe they're not able to connect with someone or something that's been causing them pain. And then it might come out in a negative way. They might be fearful of death. And then the fear turns into anxiety, and then the anxiety turns into anger.
Hmm.
So which can make them kind of bitter. I think that's what makes like older people bitter is it's essentially a uh, from fear to anxiety to anger. You know.
Yeah. So when I interviewed Frank, I don't know if you listened to this one. It was the first one. He was talking about Carl Jung and like the dark side of kind of psychology. If you remember, like back in college, Frank was just always like super positive all the time, and he said
Yes.
that he needed to like reflect on the darker parts of himself. It seems like based on what you just said and your experience, right, through nursing and through just living a more dangerous life, you've been experienced to like some of the more ugly sides of life. Your lifestyle has forced you to process some darker things than most people ever have to process. So
Yeah.
like how has that helped you? How is that added to the person that you are today?
Amongst many things, kind of a cliche thing, but you can't have one ultimate positive without an ultimate negative, because you won't be able to realize how good a situation is if you only ever experience that. So for me, death and dying that I see a lot at work, not as much anymore. I do psychiatric nursing currently, but when I used to do like medical nursing, I would see death and dying a lot. I might be in scenarios where I'm out up the river without a paddle or whatever the phrase is, in like pretty dangerous waters and stuff. Yeah, those things just totally help me appreciate life itself. I see, a older person that's like someone's loved one, and I'm like, that could be my grandmother, my grandfather. It could be like they're like my nieces or nephews out, and be like, oh, that could be like my like their grandkids at the bedside, like really upset, and all those things. So it, like you said, gratitude. It helps me appreciate those things, and it makes those positives just shine that much more, because I have like I've seen and experienced some like pretty lows, and yeah, pretty much.
This might be a random question, but it just feels right in the moment. What, in your words, what do you think the meaning of life is?
Oh, okay. I figured this one out like a few years ago.
Really?
So it's not it's you can take it in so many directions. Like it's like, oh, it doesn't even matter. Like no matter how, if you're a celebrity or you're so relevant at one time, there will always be a time where eventually no one cares anymore. You're like, your legacy, like whatever. But I was like kind of pretty young, and I was trying to figure out the meaning of life. I've always been like a bit of a deep thinker. And Frank loves psychology and philosophy and stuff. And in college, I actually minored in philosophy. So I was always like learning about that stuff. But I believe the meaning of life, it's honestly, it's just fun. Enjoy it.
Mm,
You work hard, or like you're younger, you're a kid, you're more focused on your happiness than like anything else. And life should be light and not too stressful. And then eventually, if you're someone who has kids or what, but if you're looking to have kids, eventually your fun kind of turns off, but then you're trying to make money, set up a good life for your kids, and you want them to have fun. So it's kind of like that flow of energy of just enjoyment. You kind of, you
mhm.
do your time, and maybe if you don't have kids, you just kind of continue to just try to have fun. I think it's like that's the basic thing.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people would say living in the present moment is important. And I think fun kind
Yeah.
of keeps you there, right? Because
Yeah.
I used to work all the time, like on my app and stuff. And it was always about what the app was going to become, not like what it was, you know?
Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
didn't have that much fun at a certain point. Whereas, like with these podcasts, I just have fun talking to people, and it really pulls me into the present moment. And
Yeah.
even though I do want the podcast to like blow up or be, more popular, I'm never worried or I'm never not enjoying the moment, So it just
Absolutely.
keeps it enjoyable,
Yeah. Yeah. I've been like reading a lot lately, and this book I've been reading recently, it's got like the Dalai Lama and this Archbishop guy, and it's not really religious. They're two super spiritual people, but they just go on like a week-long excursion and have all these conversations about deeper things, like what gives you a joyous life and stuff like that. And one of the things they touched on was the importance of, like you said, being present in the moment. Letting you're never gonna be in a moment if your mind's somewhere else. Like if you're doing homework, do your homework. If you're like on a mountain snowboarding, just think about that. Like those things are just so helpful to like just be there and be present. And I know like a lot of people when they hear about things and meditation and this, that, and whatever, and I kind of have a jerk reaction, not as much anymore because I love it. But some people are like, that sounds silly. Oh, that's like, but sure, like just you're gonna breathe, that's gonna make you feel better. We breathe every day, like stuff like that. But just being present is so helpful. And I kind of have had like this diagnosis of ADD, so it's hard to be present when your mind's always wandering. But I've kind of combated it with mindfulness, meditation, and being able to be in that moment is just huge. If your mind's elsewhere, I'm off of work and I'm thinking about work when I'm home, that's not good. That's not healthy. I'm not going to be able to be present with my friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's almost just like a waste.
I feel you, man. Wait, what's the name of that book real quick?
It's called The Book of Joy.
The Book of Joy. Okay, I'll check it out. I've been reading a lot lately too.
It's a very good book. I've like been cranking it out. I'm almost done it. I've only read like a few days.
But yeah, just to tie it back into the conversation, right? I feel like snowboarding and surfing, they force you to stay in the present moment because you're moving, through water or through snow. You
Yeah.
can't possibly be thinking about anything else or you're going to hurt yourself.
Yep.
So, in what, I mean, we kind of touched on it, but in what other ways do those activities affect your mental health? And maybe is there a difference between the two? Is there a difference between like the energy behind those two activities and the way you feel about yourself and life after, living in one area versus the other area?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Oh, there's a lot of things like I'm on a surfboard, I'm paddling into a wave. and just the sensation of getting up and I'm feeling the wave break behind me. I'm cutting up and down the wave. That just being like an entertaining piece. And then kind of getting a bit of adrenaline depending the surf. It's big surf out there or what. That adrenaline component, that's going to release endorphins. The entertainment's going to release endorphins. And then a kind of a small piece, but I learned about this like years ago, but being at the beach, it has these things called just positive ions. When you look at the horizon, it's 180 degrees. You can follow it all the way across your sight in front of you. And when you do that, it releases these endorphins as well. And then you're exercising. You're paddling around, you're ducking under waves. So the component of all those things, just like the entertainment factor, the exercise, and the beach being such a healing place. And yeah, it's just that definitely boosts my well-being. Activities, being active is so essential for me. But yeah, and it helps you be in that present moment. A really good way to be in the present moment is like practicing mindfulness, and that's thinking about all of your different senses that are hitting you at once. Your sense of smell, taste, what you can feel, see, all those things. So when you're surfing, a lot of that shit's going on at the same time. Like you're in water, so you can feel the water. You can feel your surfboard. You're seeing these waves come in, so you're really locked in. It smells like beachy and stuff. You might splash some water in your mouth. It's like salt water. So like you're adhering to all of these different senses. And when you put them together, you're right then and there, you're like in that moment. And snowboarding is like similar, but different. You're on a mountain, you have that peacefulness of, it's so quiet with the snow. It's like got good insulation. So you'll be on the ski lift and you just got done ripping down the hill and you're kind of like huffing and puffing, and it's just this extra stillness or quietness. And that's kind of therapeutic in itself. And then the sensation of coming down the hill, going through some snow that might be untouched, or, sharing this experience with someone else, like another friend snowboarding or skiing. I don't know, when you get to share something with someone else, it's like you get two experiences because it's yours that's unfolding, but then you get to see them enjoy themselves and you get their perspective, stuff that stands out for them, and that kind of increases it. And yeah, I mean, those are my two favorite things in the world, and they're so essential to my well-being, and they help me be present. That's for sure.
I've done snowboarding and surfing, so I can speak on
Yeah.
both. I'm not as experienced as you are, but I'm trying to think about like what the difference is, and they're so similar, right? The way you get pulled, you wait on the lift to get pulled up, and the way you have to wait for a good wave to come are so similar. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying? They
Yeah,
like this.
yeah. That's a
It's like
good comparison.
this warm up process where like you're not still, right? Because the water's moving under you and you're moving up the
Yep.
lift, but it's like this slow build up, almost like a roller coaster, how you get pulled up to it, there's that
Yep.
like build up to it. And then I feel like the big difference is in surfing, you're so immersed into nature, right? Like the sweat is
Yeah.
pouring off your face, it's connecting with the water, you can feel the water and the sand and the air.
Sure.
But then
Yep.
like snowboarding, like you said, it's so insulated. You got gloves on, a coat on, and like you can't even
Yeah.
feel the snow because you're numb, like a spaceship in outer space. You're just so insulated from the environment. It's such a dangerous environment. They're just so different. But you're
Yeah.
both gliding on
Totally.
top of water molecules on each one. Like, like if you just think about water itself, it's like, okay, you're on a board, you're gliding over water, but one
Yeah.
is like a water that you want to be immersed into and like really feel. And the other one is isolate myself. And you're just like, you're so much more in your
Yeah.
head. I feel like in surf, in snowboarding than, you know what I'm saying? Because of
Yeah.
that.
No, yeah, for sure. The gear that's involved in snowboarding is just like so much more than in surfing. Surfing, you depending where you're at, all you really need is a board. Board,
Mhm.
wax it up, and you get out there. And yeah, you're very like right in just the idea of the water. I've thought about that. It's like either the water's frozen or it's not. It's like that's my favorite thing, being able to go down the mountain or go down the wave and And they also have those similarities that so much of snowboarding and surfing is dependent on weather patterns. So
Mm.
these surfers and these snowboarders like myself, I mean, I'm looking at radars, I'm looking at multiple different like weather sites because I want to see exactly what's going on. So like I'm like practicing a little bit, and I'm pretty keen on weather patterns, like kind of like meteorologist stuff. I'm pretty familiar with where I'm at and what the weather looks like that day. And I can kind of predict, like, I'm looking at the clouds and I see a certain kind of cloud. I'm like, oh yeah, I think it's probably going to snow later, or, and stuff like that, which that's like a pretty interesting component. They're both like, you want good snow, you want fresh snow, you want it to be cold out. And then surfing, all you really want is, the waves to kick up, but another component is which way the wind is facing. If it's
Mhm.
going out to sea, that's helpful. But if it's going towards the beach or north or south, it might just make these potentially waves that could be really nice all choppy. It's just not as good to surf because it's not, they'll call it like clean. It's not as clean. It's not a uniform wave that breaks. It's got a bunch of little ripples in it and stuff, and it's not as good to surf.
Mhm. Yeah, it feels like man versus nature is the most purest form of competition and challenge we have. Back in the day, like we evolved outside, right? For millions of years,
Sure.
not just
Yeah.
humans, but monkeys and everything we evolved from came from outside, and we've been battling with the outdoors. And it
Yeah.
seems like now that we're all inside, it that might be what's causing some of the bad mental health is that we're not challenged by nature the same way. I was listening to some podcast and someone was like, why do people like golf so much? And someone was like, well, the weather's always changing. So it's always you versus the day, you versus
Yeah.
the kind of day it is. And golf is even more consistent, I feel like, than your sports. So it's really like there's very just slight differences, whether
Yeah.
the wind are things, but they're more in tune to it. Like whatever can kind of put you up against weather on different days really
Yeah.
allows you to reflect on yourself and test yourself and just
Mhm.
like I said, like competition against other people is not always the most positive thing, but
Yeah.
competition against yourself through different weather patterns is such an interesting way to know yourself, and understand yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll kind of pick up from what you said, like competition against others. I'm a super active person. I played every sport growing up, every team sport, and then I kind of got into extreme sports at a pretty early age. I've always been super competitive, but with myself.
Hmm.
I'm always trying to, if I'm running a race, I'm trying to run a faster time. If I'm snowboarding, I'm out there and I'm trying to do stuff I haven't done before, or the things I am doing, I'm trying to perfect. But yeah, it's really interesting also what you said about being outside and being more connected to nature. And somewhere along the way, we have these big cities. We have people that only are inside 24/7. Oh, I'm a homebody. When you think about it, from years of evolution and stuff, it's instilled in our brain to get our daily dose of mother nature, no matter what that is. There's studies saying that, like, even if you're in a home and you have a house plant, it will increase your serotonin levels. You'll be a little bit happier with your house plant than if
Hmm.
you have nothing inside, or like some sort of picture that's like nature. I mean, it's really important to get out there. You don't have to be going crazy and surfing, snow, whatever. Go walk in the woods for like 10, 15 minutes.
Hmm.
It just kind of helps things fall into place. It allows your neurons in your brain to create new synapses, and
Hmm.
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, there's certain patterns when we see sunlight in the early morning, it does something, it resets us. And like you said about the horizon, ever since I moved to Florida and I'm not in the city and like I don't have those buildings blocking my view,
Yeah.
being able to see a horizon and see space, it does something in my brain. I'm not even sure what, but it's good. I don't know. I like it.
Hey man, that's what matters. But you can feel it, and you've experienced it, firsthand, that like these different views. Like right now, I mean, I'm at this lake, like I showed you like a little snippet, but I'm at this lake house and I'm just looking out on the lake right now. And in the in the background is these mountains in New York. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're at and like how you're living, and a lot of times it like there's components of like views from your house have a big impact of you, just your well-being from day to day. You know, I've lived in kind of like smaller places and like a little city. You get kind of cooped up. You get a little bit of like almost like cabin fever because you don't feel as free. Like, you know, a lot of people in New York, LA, like people will be like, oh, they're like pretty angry people. They're so fast paced. And it's like, I think a lot of times it's just like pent up and they never really have much of a release. You need to do something to kind of reset yourself in a kind of way.
Why do you think we need to see beauty? What is that?
When you see something and it gives you that awe, it just, I think it just gets those chemicals going up in that brain. Like when you're at a national park
Mm-hmm.
and you know you're at Arches in Utah and you see that, it just allows you to take yourself out of your mind, your body, and you have curiosity. You're impressed by it, and it might even be such a substantial thing in front of you that it makes you feel like kind of like just there. You know, you're kind of in that moment, like kind of more the mindfulness. But I think we need to experience that because it releases those endorphins. It makes you happy. You
Yeah.
know, amongst many things, it keeps you going. It's I don't know. Yeah, I don't
Yo,
know, man. I mean, that's
I'm
like you totally need it. You totally need it. That's for sure.
I'm gonna have to guide you spiritually here, but I think
Oh,
it
please
connects.
do.
I think it connects you to like the divine or some higher power or the
Yeah.
universe or God or whatever you want to call it. I don't
Yeah.
know. In those moments where you really take in something beautiful, I don't know, you get the feeling of something greater, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
For sure. You feel little, you feel insignificant, but also you're just in the presence of something so powerful that you just have that human interaction of like, you know, when you see fireworks and stuff, you just make those noises. You're like, ooh, you know, like those
Hmm.
oohs and ahs and stuff. I love going around and you follow me on social media and stuff. I'm always posting pictures of different mountains and stuff like along my travels. And sometimes I'm pretty focused on getting like a nice photo. I love taking really good photos, but one time I was up on this mountain. I was in Maine. The mountain's called Sugarloaf, and the sun was setting. It was like the last run of the day. The sun was setting behind this mountain range out there, in I guess it'd be northwest Maine. And I wanted to take this picture, you know, get an awesome picture. I pulled out my phone. It was so cold, my phone was just like dead. I pulled out my GoPro like turned on, immediately died. And then I'm just like, well, I just sat there and I just tried my hardest just to look and just try to take a mental picture and just appreciate it for
Hmm.
what it is. Sometimes you want to capture these things so you can take them with you, take other people on your journey by showing them these photos. But other times it's also good just to kind of sit there in the presence and just try your hardest in it and just be there. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it allows your brain to kind of think differently too. When you see these things, you kind of come out of it with like a different idea, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, dude, I've had similar experiences with recording a podcast, a really beautiful conversation, and it turns out the mic was messed up or something. And
Yeah.
then I just have to be like, well, I had that conversation. I have the memory of it. That was great. I don't need to share it. You know, obviously,
Yeah.
like I would be, it makes me very, very upset. And I do everything to make sure that I am recording and I don't lose the audio or it's not bad quality or whatever. But,
Yeah.
you know, you got to be just grateful for the experience first and then, you know, focus on the photo or the recording, you know, as like, it's not the main event, right? The experience was
Yeah.
the main event, and then that's just the extra like aftermath, you know?
Yeah. It's like the finite capture of what occurred. You have your perception. I have my perception of the conversation. And then we have this ability to record it and really kind of hear how we both sounded and like go from there. But I really like that idea you said of the main events or the first experiences. what you're feeling straight up, like in live moment. And then secondary is to help you reflect and look at that would be through recording the audio, the video,
Hmm.
whatever.
And
But
sharing it with other people too, you know.
oh yeah, all
Hmm.
about them listeners.
Yeah, yeah, dude. You got to make the bread somehow, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, dude, I'm really happy we've kind of weaved our way into some nuanced conversations. I was telling you over the phone, like we might just talk about the marathon because it felt more
Yeah,
like interview style, right? So it's really
sure.
hard for me to get to this place online with people, but this has
Yeah,
felt definitely more like a in-person conversation than it usually does online, you
yeah,
know?
man, that's awesome, and like I'm just so stoked to hear from you, catch up a little bit. I was really happy to get to know you and stuff through our, our mutual friend Frank and him getting married. And we've really only hung out at the bachelor party and the wedding, but man, were there's some powerful meetings. There's a lot of experience, a lot of bonding and stuff. And I'm just stoked to hear from you, honestly.
Yeah, man. No, I was kind of let down that I didn't make as many new friends here in Florida. And then all of a sudden, like you said, within that weekend, it's just like, oh, we're good friends all of a sudden. So
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, I'm going to hang on to these friends, when they come because it's important to make meaningful connections with people, you
Yeah,
know?
for
Um,
sure.
yeah. And also, dude, man, just waking up doing this in the morning feels so fucking good because
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're a morning person, but sometimes I told you I train at 8:30 in the mornings. Sometimes I go take a nap for an hour after that shit. But this
Yeah.
kept me awake and going. So it's good to like have the time to keep chatting, you know?
Sometimes linking up with people is kind of tough. So I'm
Hmm.
already like just really enjoying this. Like this is great for my morning. Podcast kind of pushes you to kind of go into those different parts of your brain and try to explain things in detail that's tangible for a mass audience.
Hmm.
And I love that feeling. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm kind of just chilling. I'm good to talk, and I think one would be a good idea for you if you did do longer podcasts. Like if you say you put out an episode that was 2.5 3 hours, I like how you list the topics. That's sick.
Hmm.
You could even do thumbnails each topic. Hey, maybe it's like this whole conversation, but they're really interested in this one component. You could just put thumbnails in and be like, oh, this is where they start talking about marathon running, or this is where they start talking about whatever, you
Hmm.
know? That could be
Yeah.
something.
No, I do everything to basically a professional standard, but that's one thing I don't do that maybe I should. I only get like, 50, 100 downloads. So I'm like, I don't know how worth it is. If people want that, then, I'll definitely take the time to do that. I never knew how much people use those thumbnails and if it was going to be
Yeah.
worth it. But yeah, that's a good point.
I know when I'm watching like I'm getting some content where like I'm on my phone and I'm watching some like pornographic videos. I really appreciate thumbnails.
Oh my God. That's
I'm like,
I,
oh, the acting in porn is pretty bad. I'd rather just
yeah.
find this thumbnail that skips to the good part. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't
Well,
need to say
no.
that, but I thought it'd be funny.
No, that's hilarious. I'll keep it in if you don't care. When I changed it from Drive Fitness to Be Drive, I want this to feel like more just like the Tom Driver show. And putting fitness in the title made it seem like people are strictly coming here for fitness advice. But I do like the casual
Yeah.
whatever,
Oh
like
yeah, I like
combos
it.
like that too. I have a good ability to like have a casual conversation and then be like, yo, what's the meaning of life and shit.
Absolutely.
I'm getting pretty good at slipping that in. Okay, let's talk about running because I told you I
Yeah.
always wanted to interview someone who's run a marathon. So I'm just gonna clear the way for the conversation. You told me that you ran 2 marathons in college and you just ran one like 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? So you're experienced and you got a fresh experience too from right like less than a month ago.
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah. That race is like, I mean, I've since recovered, but it takes you around 2 weeks to fully recover from a marathon. But it was, yeah, around 3 weeks ago, I did the Philadelphia Marathon.
I bet, man. So, okay, first of all, like why did you decide to run a marathon?
So it first kind of started when I was in when I was in college, I was a pretty big runner in high school, and I got recruited to run at my college amongst like a few other colleges. And I got closer to the time to go to the school, get on the cross country track team and start running. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't want to run. I'm burnt out from running. And if I feel burnout now, how am I going to feel when I'm in college, when I have that added curriculars of like a pretty tough like program, like the nursing program and stuff. So I was like, it's going to be running and studying. Like that's all it's going to be. So I stopped running completely for like my freshman and sophomore year. I took a break. And then when I did start running, I would just go out and I wouldn't bring a watch. I didn't have a goal pace in time. I didn't have a goal time or mileage. I just went to run to try to gain that fulfillment, to try to just enjoy it for what it was, put less pressure on myself. So I started doing that, and I started running. And a lot of my running in high school was super fast paced. I'll do the 800, which is a half mile. It's like a 2-lap sprint on the track. And then I did 5Ks, and I was running in like, sub fives, like pretty fast. And like you feel so uncomfortable when you do those races and when you're doing speed workouts. So when I got back into running, I just started doing distance. I just started going really far, and, not a pace that feels uncomfortable or like I'm going to keel over and die. I just kept going and going. And then I'm trying to think really where it kind of stemmed from. I think I was just getting my mileage up, and I was super active, and I'm such a goal oriented person. I love to, when I'm working out, I love fitness, but what drives me the most is training for something. So I realized my mileage was getting up, and I was like, I mean, no one's really doing this that I know. I was like, I think I'm going to like try to do a marathon, and kind of just came out of the blue. And then I just started doing a ton of research on it. And that was like a pretty big focus my junior year.
Okay, so wait, when you decided, okay, my miles are getting up there, I should do this. What number are you at? Like 10 miles, 12 miles? What were you naturally at when you decided to go for the marathon?
Yeah. So like a few days a week, I was running like between 5 and 7 miles each run. And then once a week, I would run a long run. Each week, I would add 1 or 2 miles. I got up to I think around mile 14 after that, I was like, I mean, if I can just do a half marathon and feel all right, I might as well just like try to do a full one. And I remember coming into, most of my friends were this track and cross country kids. And I like went to the dining hall, and I was eating lunch with them, and I'm like like my whole shirt there's not a single dry part on my shirt. It looks like someone poured a bucket of water on it. My buddy's like, how far did you run? And I was like, I just did like 14. And he's like, dude, we're not even doing that on the track and cross country team. He's like, why are you doing? And that kind of like sparked. I was like, I should probably just put this towards something and then train for something, But I was around like, mile 14 was a long run. After that, I was like, I should just keep going and try to do a marathon.
Yeah, you're fucking crazy, man. Because like I was gonna ask, how did you push it to that next level? But you were already 14 is up there, dude. Just for like casual, I'm just doing this for fun. I guess you ran in college or in high school, so this is just kind of like caked into who you are, your identity, right? We were talking about that earlier, but this is just caked into your identity. I can tell,
Yeah, I really liked running, the freeness of it, the euphoria, getting done a hard run, bonding with other people running with you. I really, really liked. I got a little burnout in high school, and then I kind of that flame got it re-sparked for me around my junior year. But it's definitely like something that'll always be with me, that's for sure, until my knees go and hips and stuff. But
Dude, that can happen, man. It's rough. I've known some runners that got injured. It sucks. But yeah, dude, I was a big soccer player in high school, so I had to have really good cardio for that, and I kind of missed that in some capacity. I was running like 5 or 6 miles about a year ago, and then I switched back into focus on lifting again. So I'm bulking now. It's not for my body, the way I look or anything. Like I'm happier when I'm running at least, or playing soccer. I might want to pick up soccer again or something, but when
Yeah.
I'm running in some capacity, I feel like it keeps me so much more balanced. Where like
Sure.
lifting, if you don't run lifting, like you can be kind of unhealthy and like lift a lot. You know
Definitely.
what I'm saying? It's not the
Oh,
same.
definitely.
It's not the same at all, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you're building those muscles, and they're pretty explosive. Depending, you're doing, a lot more about lifting than me, but you're powerlifting, whatever, and then you get yoked, and you're so inflexible, but you never do any kind of cardio. You like go up like a few flights of stairs, and you're like huffing and puffing, and dude, you're at the gym every day. It doesn't really seem like this is productive for your overall health,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, I think running, it like flushes your system in a certain way. If I don't do cardio, I'll go sit in the sauna and that kind of does the same thing. But there's something important about, especially if you ever like, drink or smoke like any toxin, like
yeah,
running will just flush that shit out of you. And if you don't run and sweat and like get your heart rate up and kind of do a physical activity to that level, it doesn't cycle all the bad shit out of you, and I think it stays in you and kind of like weighs you down. I think something
for
like
sure.
snowboarding or surfing is great, but you can glide on a snowboard and
Yeah.
it won't really flush your system the way like even just like a 2 mile run will, you know?
Yeah. The freeness, run because because you can. If anything else, just run because you're able to. Not everyone can. But yeah, flushing out your system, getting that heart rate up, one of the best things to kind of decrease those things weighing down on you and your life is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So when you're running, it's pretty uncomfortable sometimes. And
Yeah, I hate it.
yeah, yeah, it's like I talk to people about it, and I talk to a lot of different people, different skill sets and experience running, and I will never, I don't give a hoot how much or how little you don't really care, but I always try to put it into to layman's terms, and I get it. I'm like in the beginning when you're getting in shape, there's like parts when you're running where you just feel like you're dying the whole time. You're just like, man, I literally just feel like I'm dying the whole time. And then eventually, once you're in shape and you're running, that's when running gets more exciting. When you're
Mhm.
in shape and you're able to run 3 to 5 miles and it's not really that big of a deal, you let your mind wander and you get your heart rate up. And then it allows for your resting heart rate to be lower. And having a low resting heart rate, that's so good for your mental health.
Mhm.
It decreases your anxiety and a lot of stuff like that.
Tying this into podcasting, when I'm out of shape, I have to listen to like a podcast or something super distracting to get past those
Yeah.
first couple miles, dude. Maybe certain like EDM songs too, like some epic. If it's not the right audio experience, bro, I can't. I would just go home. Literally cannot do it.
Yeah, dude. It's kind of funny. You might think I'm like a psychopath after I tell you this, but I did 2 marathons in college, one junior year, one senior year. My senior year, I did so much better than my junior year because it's your first one, big trial and error. But when I ran, I did not, when I was training for it, I didn't listen to any music. I
Whoa.
didn't listen to I didn't listen to anything the whole time. Yeah, which is now every time I run, to the point that if I don't bring my headphones, I might not run. Like now I always listen to usually music. Sometimes I'll listen, if it's a long run, I'll listen to like a podcast sometimes.
Mhm.
But but yeah, I did a lot. Majority of my training was nothing,
Well,
which is I think I know that's bizarre.
so you like to run outside, right? And I usually run on a
Yeah,
treadmill. Running on a treadmill with no music is actually insane. Like you just listening to like thump thump thump, and you're just like
yeah,
staring at a wall. It's so boring, and you're hearing like other people
yeah.
like grunt and stuff in the background. I feel like if you're outside, it's more manageable outside. You're just more like you can listen to nature. It's not just the same scenery and sounds. Like it's changed as you go through your run. It's changing stuff and
For
like
sure,
it's not as stagnant and boring as like treadmill running. So
for sure.
I think you're not as insane as if you told me you trained for a marathon on a treadmill with no headphones.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point for sure.
You must be familiar with a runner's high, right?
Yeah.
What is that like in your experience?
People talk about it in a lot of different ways. And I have so many running friends over the years, and like a lot of people that don't run talk more about the runner's high than people that do run. And then it kind of gets, yeah, it kind of gets me as part, like they're like, oh, you run, you must get runner's high. And I'm just like, I don't really know, but I can tell you some of my experiences that I think might feel like a runner's high.
Yeah, tell
I
me.
don't know. I don't know if you're supposed to feel it during your run or whatever, but a lot of times when I finish a run, and that sense of accomplishment kind of paired up with just feeling like, when you're absolutely done, you're not throwing your legs as far, you're just walking now. It just feels good. You kind of
Hmm.
just feel like you're floating. It feels more still. It feels more quiet. It feels like life's kind of moving slowly. Could be a few minutes. It could be like 20, 30 minutes. When I finished my race 3 weeks ago, I was like crippled. I was like, couldn't do anything, but I felt amazing. I thought I was going to like cry. Like I felt like I was just going to start crying because I accomplished the race and I ran pretty well and I didn't give up. And there was people that came out and supported me. That's the runner's high I experience, is that stillness and feeling everything. And then sometimes during a race, I don't know if this is runner's high or what, but like during a race, like sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. And like those times where you're just feeling it that day and you're able to kick it into an additional gear and pass people near the finish line and stuff, that I think that absolutely gives you kind of like a euphoric boost of feeling like invincible, feeling like you got this strength and this power that other people in the same race don't have. And they're dying, you're kind of feeding off of them, like falling apart. That's giving you more energy. And it's kind of vice versa. When you get in a race, you'd much rather be passing someone than getting passed. If you're passing someone, that's going to boost your feeling. When you get past, you're like, fuck, that guy just passed me. I'm slowing down. This isn't looking good. And then more people pass you, and it kind of chips away at you.
Yeah, that would drive me insane if I've already been running for such a long time and someone's passing me in the last stretch, especially a race that length.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I feel like I'm the type of person that doesn't run much, so I do talk about the runner's high a little bit because I've only hit that point a couple times and it was like crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess for you that's more of like a standard, because I think the
Yeah.
runner's high is for me was when I finally could pass a certain moment like 5 or 6 miles that I never could. And then I
Yeah.
felt better than I had the previous 5 miles, probably because
Okay.
I wasn't in the best shape, right? Or I just wasn't used to doing that. So you
Yeah.
probably are like always in the runner's high, and therefore you're not as like amazed by it.
Yeah,
But
dude. I'm just always high.
yeah, it reminds me of the Pumping Iron movie where Arnold
Oh
Schwarzenegger, he's
yeah.
like, oh, in the I'm coming in the gym and I go home and I'm coming. I'm always coming.
Yeah, I've heard that one a few times. That was pretty funny. Yeah.
Okay, wait. So just specifically, what are your marathon times? Like, what was your most recent time?
So my most recent one, I didn't hit the time I wanted to, but it was a PR personal record. I ran a 2:55 so 2 hours 55 minutes this past one.
Whoa.
And then yeah, which was, I mean, hey, I broke 3 hours. That was my ultimate goal. I was happy. Yeah.
Was that your
So
was that your first time breaking 3 hours?
yes, yeah, it
Okay.
was. So
Nice.
I was stoked. I was really excited. A lot of my training runs gave me the confidence that I could run a decent amount faster, but I like to focus on no matter what, it's a PR. You can't be mad about that. And there was times in that race, the last 6 miles was so hard. It was so hard. And I knew I was dying. My body was starting to shut down and just not do well. But I knew I could have fell apart more. I was like, you're falling apart, but you're still moving. You're still pushing. You could absolutely fall apart so much more. So I give myself credit for like keeping my head in it when the real race starts, which is pretty much like the last six,
So
you know?
what is your mentality when you're starting to have those fears of like, I might not make this, I might not finish, or I might not finish at the same pace, what
Yeah.
mentally, what gets you through that? What pushes you past that point of giving up?
Yeah. So there's a few things. And I was really lucky enough. I did the Philadelphia Marathon. There's 30,000 people there that were racing, just racing. And then a lot of the course was lined with these people with different signs, like, handing out water, beer, like a lot of different things, just like trying to just stoke people up. And there's people cheering for you. You don't know them. They're cheering for everyone because they're just trying to get you through the race as well. So you kind of harness that energy, the environment, the vibe of like everyone being out there. There's countless times during that race when I was like, kind of just doing my thing, running, feeling good, feeling all right. Or maybe it was on the back stretch when I was starting to fall apart, but I seen someone sign and they're smiling, they're cheering, they're getting hype. And I just smiled so big. And when you smile like that, it just releases things to like help you get through it. So when you're smiling, that helps you. It's kind of like fake it till you make it. When you grin, it causes you to naturally. Yeah, there it is. There's a big smile right there. It causes you to like feel a little good. So the environment's one thing, and then another thing is such a mental game. I'm in my head and I'm trying to stay positive. So to kind of give you an idea of how that race went, the first 20 miles I ran around a 6:16 pace, right where I wanted to run. I was running pretty good. The last 6 miles I started running at like, I think my average pace was around 8:30 or something. So in those moments when I started to die, it was like, I'm getting past. I want to stop. I see some guy that I'm running past that he's doing this whole walking forward, backwards, side to side, like he looks lost at like a freaking fair. He did not look okay. And I was like, oh man, like I'm dying, but that guy's falling apart over there. So I was just trying to stay positive, saying, keep on going. One more mile, just keep moving your feet. You're falling apart, but you can just hold on. You have that fitness, you have that training. People are passing you, but that's okay. You can still get a pretty good time if you just hold on. So it's just trying to stay positive in those moments and not letting those thoughts of wanting to stop and people passing you take over and control your actions.
So we talked about death and fear a little bit already today. To continue that idea, is it as serious as feeling like I might die? Because when you talk about that guy stumbling around, it made me realize you could. Obviously, snowboarding is like dangerous in a different way, but like you could just die from a marathon, or like you could push yourself to a point where you're injured for the next 6 months, even if it's not death. Do you feel the presence of literal death? I don't know. What does that feel like to be pushing forward in the face of what feels like it could be death?
When you're in those moments, when you're on that back stretch and stuff, you're feeling this extreme exhaustion. And what makes it tough and difficult is, we've talked about lifting a little bit before, and I've heard like, power lifters or like people that lift a lot, they say this phrase. They say, sometimes they say cardio is for pussies. People will say that. And you've probably heard that before. But when you lift, you get a pump in, you rest between your sets. And, when you're lifting, it's like, when you throw that weight on your back and you're squatting and you're going for a PR and you don't know if you're going to get back up, there's kind of like a moment in time where you're like I might like freaking die. This is a ton of weight on me. My body might just like, my spine might explode. But for running and cardio, you don't have that rest. You're consistently throughout the run. You're like, this is this impending doom that's occurring every single moment where I'm going. Yeah, I mean, you kind of feel like not exactly like you're dying, but it's extreme exhaustion, and you can develop a heart arrhythmia. Like your heart will not beat correctly, and it can kick you into some sort of arrhythmia that you might have to go to the hospital. My buddy, he was doing a half marathon. He had to go to the hospital after the race and get things kind of situated. And that guy that I was telling you about that was walking forwards, backwards, left and right, he just looked lost. I saw him after the race and I was like, hey man, like, how's it going? And he's like, oh man, I've really died back there. Like I'm fine. And I was like, dude, I'm happy you're all right. It looked pretty concerning, but it is like you're putting your body through just so much. And different body types can take that on more readily than others, but it's like mind over matter. But some people push it so much in their mind that their body can, like, it can get to a point where it can have a lasting injury, or they might have to go to the hospital. They might pass out, stuff like that.
So I'm still thinking about this idea of death. I don't know. It just kind of is making me realize how much a race like this becomes like almost like a whole lifetime. You know how like sometimes like a drug trip or a lot of artists try to make an album feel like a whole lifetime. Mac Miller always tried to make his albums kind of feel like birth, not birth, but like the beginning of a life. And then by the end of the album, it feels like, the end of a life, and there's a lot of things,
Yeah.
there's a lot of mini moments in life where it feels like a lifetime. But this race, running a race like this, the presence of you feel like you're dying for the last 6 miles. Well, that's kind of how it feels like probably to be like 60 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old, And like
Sure.
obviously when you started off, you're just so full and like optimistic and excited. And we were talking about death earlier and how the best way to go out is with joy, or at least what'd you
Yeah.
say, no regrets, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I guess my two questions are you able to like run at the last couple miles in the face of what feels like death with a sense of joy, or maybe has like certain races felt joyous the last couple miles and certain races haven't? Have you gotten bitter before? We were
Yeah.
saying you shouldn't get bitter, but have you experienced maybe more of that before in a race? And then also when you have these moments in life that they feel like a lifetime, I feel like you walk away with more wisdom, like you almost lived a life. Do you feel that presence of wisdom that you've gained through this like mini blip of a life that you lived in these
Yeah.
races,
Yeah. No, for sure. I've had experiences where I'm running, like not that great, and then maybe I like throughout the race I can't really pick it up, and I'm starting to get down on myself mentally. There's times where your day-to-day life, you don't feel as equipped to get through the day than others.
Mm-hmm.
Some days life's just easy. You just get through it, you crush it, you're good socially, you're good at your job, everything's clicking, everything's firing. That compared to running, you'll have days where things don't click as much. And I've definitely, my first marathon I ever did, there was a point in the race where I walked a little, and I'd never walked in a race in my whole life. And when I did that, that was a big impact on me. And then I was being pretty negative. I was pretty bitter. My dad was there. He was cheering me on. He's like, all right, just, pick it up or whatever. And I was like, it's kind of rude. I was like, shut up, dad. I was like not happy about it, man. I was not happy, and it was just my perception of what was going on, and it wasn't great. And then piggybacking off of that, my second marathon I did was my senior year in college, and I was so well equipped for this race. And the last mile I ran in like the fives or something. I was crushing it. And I remember coming through then with just joy. I was just happy to be there. There was no point in the race where I was really broken down. You hit like a wall, they say. I hit the wall around 22, and then I kept going, and I felt fine. And I just remember finishing like having that feeling like that wasn't that bad, which usually when you have that feeling, it's like I could have ran faster. But in that race, there's definitely like I finished with joy. And the last race in Philly, so many people out there. People came out and supported me. It felt like a lifetime. That last mile, that last 2 miles, it felt like the longest mile or two of my life. And going through that intense discomfort because of I'm pushing myself so much, it makes those seconds just click by slower, you know.
Mhm.
And coming away from that and finishing, that definitely just makes me feel accomplished, makes me feel like I can do anything. I can run even faster. And then it's truly like kind of an emotional experience too, because you have to be locked in the whole time. You got to stay focused the whole race. As soon as you lose focus for a little bit, your time starts slowing down, or you start thinking about some random shit. Definitely just gives me a lot of positive energy and stuff. Like I can do that. I can, I can do anything. You just ran like a marathon, and people are like, oh, it's like running a marathon. But being able to say that you did it's cool.
Yeah. First of all, random mini question. What do you listen to music during the race, or is that no, you're more tuned in to like the crowd and the people?
So I had done all my training this time around with music and podcasts and stuff. So when you get closer to your race, you don't want to rock the boat too much. You want to keep a consistent diet of what you've been doing the whole time, how you've been running, your like little nuances. Like, I'm listening to music the whole time during the training. I should probably race with music, stuff like that. So I did listen to music. I actually made a playlist with the exact time that I wanted to get. So when the music turned off, I realized what time I was at, which was kind of
Whoa,
cool. Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
You're probably shitting yourself like when the time turns off, you're still in the race. You're like, oh no.
Oh yeah. I was like, I still got 2 miles left. I was like, I'm pretty close. It was kind of nice. Towards the end, I was happy that the music stopped because it was kind of when you're uncomfortable, like when you're holding plank or like doing one of those static exercises that are just tiring, or like stretching for whatever reason, you don't want to be bothered and like things irritate you a little bit easier because you're uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So the music was kind of starting to be a little bit more annoying than helpful. And when it turned off, I was like, word, I can hear my breathing. I can hear my feet. I can hear the crowd, whatever. And then just
Yeah.
kind of brought it home.
Well, plus I feel like you want to dissociate a lot from the race during the longer portions, but the last 2 miles, you probably want to be more in the moment and like you said, connect with people who are watching the race and just remember the moment for the memory too, a little bit stronger than the middle of the race. Okay, let me just dissociate and like not remember this boring like middle 10 miles.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like distraction is so helpful for painful situations, whether it's running mentally, whatever. But so you're given in the beginning of the race, you have your gauge of energy level. You have a full tank of energy, and then you have a full tank of mental strength. So when you're kind of just like cruising in those first 10, 15 miles, you want to get those miles and get them fast. But you want to be like, this isn't causing me severe mental strain. This is still the beginning. It's it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. But it's like
literally.
But then like when I was getting to the part where my muscles started tensing up and it just started getting like my breathing and heart rate was fine. It's just my muscles tensed up. This is when I'm kicking in that mental strength. This is when the race begins. And that was around mile 1920. And it was like, you got it. You got to stay on it. And just try to just bring it home without falling apart too much, really.
This has been good because I keep straying away from what I planned to ask. Like I plan to ask you stuff like what'd you eat and boring ass questions like that. But like obviously me, like I'm being pulled into like the spiritual conversation here because when you said it's not a race or it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, I just realized, dude, you're doing the thing that is a metaphor for everything else in life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like how does that? That's a spiritual experience. Remember, we were talking on our hike at the bachelor party about we were joking that you were the physical guide, I was a spiritual guide, right? And because you were telling us where to walk, but like in the spiritual realm, I was always worried about the story of the walk. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where I think the spirit takes form and certain like symbols and metaphors. These things like 26 miles is a marathon. It becomes this symbol of it's not just accomplishing a goal. It's like the symbol for accomplishing a goal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it represents like a long snowboarding day. You would be like, wow, man, that was as long as a marathon. You know what I'm saying? But if you ran half a marathon, you wouldn't be like, well, that was as long as a snowboarding day. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like these things, they exist in the zeitgeist but like the zeitgeist is more of like what's going on now. Like a marathon exists in like the story of humanity. It has a place in it, And like
It does.
you're
Yeah.
talking about death and things like that and how like people won't remember you, you know what I'm saying? But people will always remember a marathon, maybe not forever, but for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. A
Yeah.
marathon will be a unit of not just distance, but like an accomplishment. You know what I'm saying? And people might not remember you, but you get to tap into something that is like spiritually like in the story of humanity. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that's a question or just a statement, but like, what does it
I
feel
can
like?
go.
What does it feel like to tap into that bigger spiritual thing that humans have always
Yeah.
done, you know?
The marathon, to go to the history, I guess it was like someone ran from Greece to somewhere else, 26.2 miles away. And I don't know why they made it a race, but they're like, yeah, we should do it. And then, humans weren't really made to do that, but they did that time, and then it stuck, and they've been doing it forever. And a marathon in a few ways, or like some people would say, it's like kind of like a pinnacle, like one of the pinnacles of an accomplishment. I don't know, like attaching yourself to something bigger than you is, can be done in athletics with that race. Like that is absolutely like a pinnacle, like a huge accomplishment for people in the running world and people outside of the running world. They respect it. They think it's awesome. It's great. And similarly, like you can attach yourself to different things, that thing is bigger than you and will keep a bigger legacy for you.
Mm,
Like you go to school at Harvard. Guess what? That's like an institution that's so prestigious, going to be around forever. You are like kind of attached to that really big thing, causing you to have a bit more of a legacy because it's something bigger than you.
mm.
So that's what I kind of feel like. I kind of feel like I'm in this group of people. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, millions of people that do it, but I get to be a part of that club, whether I
Mm.
ran fast, slow, or whatever. You have that connection to that bigger accomplishment and that bond.
When I think about God or the divine or whatever, I like to think of it sometimes not as just like a person up in the sky, disconnected, but more of the universal consciousness, the accumulation of all of our minds. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody,
Yeah,
Sometimes when I like talk on a podcast, I know there's other people that are going to listen to this later. And I'm not just asking you questions that I want to hear, but I'm trying to like fit into like the universal consciousness and ask you questions that everyone might want to hear or that would just translate into good conversation. And then sometimes I feel
absolutely.
like I'm channeling something bigger than myself. And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
when you're running this race that hundreds of thousands of people have run before you, I feel like you're probably tapping into a bigger energy than just you. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting
Yeah.
excited talking about it. So, do you notice your thought patterns and your emotions? You were kind of talking about the emotions you go through running normally when you were running the race, when you were doing the 26 miles, especially when you get
Yeah.
into like, the last 6 miles that are you just haven't done that before. Do
Yeah.
you notice that your thought patterns and your emotions change? Like, do you start to think of ideas? Like, I would assume like you would, if you ever had an epiphany or, something like that, like an idea that just felt like it came from the beyond, those kind of moments might be a time where you could channel something bigger than yourself. Did you notice your thought patterns change or your emotions change at a certain point in the race? And what'd you think about?
Yeah. So it's just like a lot of that race, I was hitting the times, the mile splits that I wanted to. And that was just boosting my confidence, making it better and better. And then seeing other people I was running with. Sometimes you see someone next to you, in front of you, behind you. You kind of think about what kind of training, what training looked like for them. How old are they? What did they do? Where are they from? People come from all over the place. I met someone
Mm,
before the race who said, I just flew in from Aruba. I'm trying to run like in the 230s. And I was like, holy shit, dude, that's crazy. Like you came all the way from Aruba. He's like, oh yeah, I'm not used to these temperatures. It was like 40 degrees in the morning. And I was like, oh, my friends just went to Aruba on vacation. So that's like kind of interesting. Like traveled to Philadelphia to run a race. But to answer the higher consciousness or like getting additional energy, emotions, or feelings, I think a lot of it is kind of what I was saying about the bonding and strength in numbers. If you're more inclined to get a workout in if you're held accountable by a workout buddy, so you run, you lift with him, whatever. I'm in this race with these thousands of people, and there's not much distance between each people. There's less of a distance. If there was like not many people in the race at all, when the race starts going, you get a lot more spread out. So I think I gain energy from all the people. My first 2 marathons, there was only 400 or 500 people, and this past one was 30K. So that's like something. And like, you guys are all like, you're in it together. You're bonding through the pain. They say a lot of like training, like, you play basketball, you do whatever. At the end of the practice, they do these things called gassers or suicides, whatever it may be. They say a lot of that doesn't really do much for your fitness, actually. At that point in time, it doesn't do a lot for your fitness. But what it does do is it makes you closer with your teammates. You're bonding through one more suicide, one more gasser. Like, you guys are in that uncomfortable situation where you're pushing your body together. If you're just by yourself, maybe you wouldn't push it as hard. But, they're doing it too. I can do it. So I think I'm definitely gaining strength through all the people there. I didn't really have, when I was coming down that home stretch, I couldn't think of anything besides finishing. My mind was literally just, I can't even think about a single thing besides just like getting across that finish line.
So your brainwave is just like, just do it. You can do it. You can do it. It's just, it gets more simplistic at times.
Oh, for sure. You kind of get, they say you should do like a lot of mantras when you run. And when you do a long distance race, like my first mantra in the first like 10 miles was light and easy. I think I said light, fast and light. That's what I want to say. Because tell myself I feel light and I feel fast and this is easy, whatever. And then when I started to hit the middle, I just started saying to myself, it's kind of weird. I just started saying like meat and potatoes, this is the body work. Meat and potatoes. It's a body work of the race. And then I think at the end, it might have been just like, don't fall apart. Keep moving. Don't die too much. And like, because you're like, your brain's you're so exhausted. You can't really get into, I'm not like thinking about the metaverse while I'm like, like 10 miles. I can't think about anything, man. I'm just like, one more mile. But those mantras can be helpful though. That's for sure.
It's funny thinking of me who's never run probably more than 10 miles or like even 8, and then I'm trying to imagine what you were thinking about in the moment, and I'm just so wrong because I'm like what's the meaning of life, and you're like meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
but I think in Buddhism the ultimate goal is to not have any thoughts, right? It's just to kind of have like a blank mindset, so even if it's just like repeating meat and potatoes or like you can do it, right? I feel like you're having a deep meditation through all that process,
Sure.
So like,
Absolutely.
how does that feel? Maybe not right after you finish. Well, how does it feel right after you finish? But then also, how does it feel like in the next week or two? Do you feel like a new person? Are you born again? Like, what is the overall mindset after going through that kind of physical and mental meditation?
It's kind of cool when I finish for about a week or two, that accomplishment just holds on to you longer. You still feel like, man, I got that done. Now it's like 3 weeks out and I still feel happy I did it. I feel stoked that I like had worked hard, trained and ran it. And it just, I mean, it sticks with you. I think, I don't know. It's just like putting yourself through extreme exhaustion, putting yourself through things that try yourself mentally. It just boosts your ability to try to get after a goal that you might think is unobtainable. What comes naturally for me in this world is athleticism. I run far. That doesn't bother me too much. I can run pretty far and at like a decent pace and be okay with it. Some people can sit down and write a paper in like a half hour. I can't do that. That's not my expertise. That's not where I excel in. But being able to do those things and accomplishments that I do excel in and do come naturally kind of help me point my interest, that kind of gives me a little bit more of like a boost to do some of those things that don't come as naturally. Because it was like I did that big thing. Why can't I sit down and write a paper? Why can't I, go back to school and get my additional degree? Because I can, and it's all mental, physically, physical event, it's a lot of mental strength, or just sitting down and doing something, a lot of mental strength. So I think it gives me additional confidence to tackle many things in the world.
Not the only way, but the quickest and probably the most pure way to a boost in confidence is through overcoming a physical challenge, right? I mean, they have like hackathons for coders and stuff like that, where it'll inspire a lot of good work if you force someone to do something in a certain time frame. But nothing like overcoming a physical challenge really unlocks you and really is like a pure confidence booster that you can go then apply in other areas.
Oh, for sure. I was chatting with one of my friends yesterday about it, and she is in law school. So she's cranking out papers. She has lectures. She has all these things. And those things just don't feel as accomplishing, or like they're not as like tangible.
Mm-hmm.
For me, in comparison, I'm just a regular ass adult now, but I get stoked when I go to the grocery store, do all my meal prep for the week, get a workout in, go snowboarding. Like when I do like all those things in a day, that's so tangible for me. It's like so much different than when you're kind of sitting down, working on a paper all day or studying, because you don't really even know what you have to show for it until you get your grade. And it's not that exciting,
Yeah. If you get yourself into physical shape, right, and then you go and you sit down and you do some work, you can feel pretty good about it no matter what level of work it is. But if you're doing a high level of stationary work, and then you're really happy about that, but like you're physically out of shape, you're not going to be 100% happy, because that's going to bog you down to a certain degree, whereas like if your fitness is in check and you're challenging yourself and you're feeling good about it, I feel like it's easier to not let anything else upset you, like not let whatever is going on with your career or just any of that other type of challenge upset you the same way. Where it's like, I don't know, being physically unhealthy, there's always going to be something like in your way from reaching your full potential, and not unhealthy because everyone's at a different level with their fitness. But I would say if you're not currently making progress, you could be 500 pounds, and as long as like you're working towards 480 pounds, you could feel really good about where you are, but like if you're in the decline, your body holds emotions and energy in a certain way that you can't release any other way except for a physical challenge like a marathon.
I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. When you're in some sort of shape or you're working towards something, and those small bite-sized accomplishments, you wake up in the morning, you run a few miles, you wake up in the morning, you get your lift in, guess what, it doesn't matter how the rest of your day went, you're already ahead of the game. You got those endorphins going. You got more energy because you worked out. You already accomplished something before your day fully started. So that's just a good way to kind of set the tone. But what makes it, the hard part is getting out of bed, doing that, staying consistent. You like the what's called the effects of it. You like the byproduct of your hard work, but putting in the work is sometimes tough. And and just like being at a computer and doing your stuff. For me, and like my ADD, and I have a little bit of ADHD, that's why I'm so active, because I need to do those things. If I have too much energy and I didn't run that day or exercise, my mind's going to be all over the place when I'm trying to sit down and like do work what I'm supposed to do. If I'm like pretty physically tired, my brain is too tired to wander to other places. It kind of helps me just like lock in, get my work done.
So we're gonna probably close up soon, right? Because I've already had you for almost 3 hours. What's next for you? What's the next goal? Are you gonna do another marathon? Are you gonna set yourself up with like a different type of physical challenge? What's the plan?
Yeah. So the game plan right now, I'm really going to enjoy my snowboarding season. I plan on progressing a lot. I have a few different tricks I want to work on, but after that, towards the end, I really want to do an Ironman, which is a whole different, ball game. You're running, swimming, biking. So that's my next goal. So I want to do an Ironman and see how that goes.
That's crazy. Is that different than a triathlon, or is that the same thing?
So it's a triathlon. It's just like, how a marathon is one of the there's ultra marathons. People just run. The marathon is like pretty much one of the longest races you'll run and people work towards. The triathlon is essentially the marathon, or the Ironman is essentially the marathon of triathlons. It's a 2.5 mile swim. You bike 110 miles, and then you finish by running a full marathon.
Oh my God. Well, have you ever done a normal triathlon? Like just okay. So you've done
Yeah.
a lesser version of that. Damn, dude.
Yeah.
But that's definitely something you can't practice if you're up in the mountains though, right?
No, not really. I mean, I have gym memberships and stuff, and I can definitely run, and the YMCA has a pool, and there's a stationary bike. But taking a little bit of a mental break from the intense training and just snowboarding, having fun. That's what I'm gonna kind of do right now. And then once it's time to figure out what my like training is gonna look like, I'm gonna be that much more refreshed and like dialed in because I took a break and be able to do everything I want to do.
So is that kind of how you space it out? You do like really chill snowboarding in like the winter, chill surfing in the summer, and then you train for something like fall and spring?
In a lot of ways, yeah. So all my activities or all everything I do for fun essentially is active. I don't really watch much TV. I read books sometimes and stuff like that, but I'm not Netflixing and stuff, which is kind of hard for people to wrap their head around because they're like, "Oh, what kind of shows you watch?" And I'm just like, I don't watch shows. And they're like, "No, come on, what kind of shows?" I'm like, "Dude, I like hike mountains and go snowboarding and shit. That's what I do for fun." So some of those activities they keep me fit, like hiking a mountain, snowboarding, surfing, like, and I rip like as hard as I can. So, but it doesn't feel as tiring mentally as going to the gym and running, going to the gym and lifting. Cause it's like those things are still fun, but surfing, snowboarding, and hiking up mountains, that's just like strictly fun. But it keeps me in shape. And then like once I'm out of that season, when the weather warms up in the spring is when I start putting mileage in because I get crazy spring fever. It gets warm out and I just want to run around. So that's when I usually end up pointing my focus towards some sort of long distance goal is when it starts to warm up outside. And then I have like spring all the way into fall. And fall is when the temps drop a good bit. I've been putting in my mileage or swim, whatever it may be, and I can run like really comfortably in like a little bit cooler weather and stuff. So that's and then in like in the winter, I'll just like lift, work on my body mechanics and then, just play outside a lot.
Well, hey man, this sounds a little corny, but I really mean it, man. This has been a life changing conversation for me because I've been doing personal training, a couple of times a week, getting really fit, but I haven't really picked a big goal or challenge or activity outside of that. And like I think I'm ready for that. So, I'm definitely going to go seize the day, do something outside and start working towards either like a run or just something. I want to. I might do yoga on the beach, but like, man, you definitely just inspired me to just go do more like active things. Just all around. Like, it's so impressive the combination of things that you consistently do, man. Not a lot of people are living like this, like you said, and man, I just love to hear it and love to talk to someone like you who can inspire me like that.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you talking with me and just complimenting me there. Like that makes me feel awesome about everything. And I've really enjoyed talking to you. I like how your brain you know, I can see the way when you start thinking more into that spiritual realm, and you push myself to kind of think about those things that are a little less tangible, but it's like kind of like a higher power, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like what's going on in our brains. And having these conversations allow me and you to get into topics and things that I don't think I would regularly be doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like the format of it kind of pushes yourself out of your element, and it jogs my brain and makes me think of things that I haven't in a while, or I haven't really at all, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
thanks for
man.
having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Take it easy and have a good